takes the COBOL developer into the future with industry-leading development tools. By integrating with Eclipse, Visual Studio, and VS Code, Visual COBOL makes COBOL development a truly 21st century experience. There's more. Visual COBOL unifies disparate development teams working within different programming languages. COBOL development teams can now access unit testing tools and continuous integration to work with agile teams writing in languages like C# and Java. But let's take a step back. While scientists evolved World War II military inventions, such as the V-2 rocket to give us satellites, other pioneers like Rear Admiral Grace Hopper were focused elsewhere. Her brainchild, COBOL, was the first programming language dedicated to automating business transaction processing. COBOL is unique at being able to handle large data files at scale, while unraveling complex calculations that give business the information it needs. Much like superglue, another innovation from the period in which COBOL was born, COBOL has stuck around. However, unlike computing hardware which gets smaller and smaller, COBOL has grown in scale. There are currently more than 800 billion active lines of code in use. With that kind of usage, COBOL's place in the current IT landscape is apparently secure. The question is about what happens next. How will COBOL, a language in its 6th decade, keep up? The answer is in transformation, a process whereby the legacy COBOL applications still powering the back office for nearly 30,000 global enterprises are enabled for rapid change and modernized where needed. But where do you begin? How can you get where you need to go? And who will help you get there? Some think leaving COBOL behind altogether is the solution, replacing a COBOL application that has worked faultlessly for decades with an off-the-shelf software package that may or may not do the same job as well. In fact, according to recent data, more than 70% of rewrite or replacement projects fail at massive cost to the business. So, what else is out there? Modern IT architecture. COBOL applications are no longer tied to mainframes and host-based systems. Modern IT architectures support COBOL deployment into containers, the cloud, and even serverless computing platforms like AWS Lambda or Azure Functions. You want portability? Dev teams are now deploying COBOL applications directly inside the Java virtual machine or .NET. Suddenly, reusing COBOL business logic by Java and C# developers is easier and faster. The Visual COBOL compiler automatically generates classes to call COBOL business logic without Java and C# developers having to think about it. And COBOL developers can also consume .NET or Java functions directly within procedural COBOL programs. Visual COBOL provides a modern object-oriented syntax perfectly at home for taking advantage of .NET or Java-based support from within existing COBOL applications. Right now, thanks to Visual COBOL, devs can either develop new business functionality in COBOL or other languages. Speed and choice. RESTful APIs unlock the value tied up in COBOL systems, and Visual COBOL's API Designer and Web Services Toolkit makes COBOL applications accessible to the thousands of applications using standard web services API calls. You can even emit XML and JSON directly from COBOL record areas and consume it from external sources. Specialized tooling for COBOL. Given the time frame and depth of functionality, taking them on can feel daunting. That's why our tooling includes static analysis tools and charts to help developers find their way around. Refactoring tools help in reducing code complexity and even extracting the functionality you want to reuse as a web service. Visual COBOL is the vehicle that takes you where you need to be. There are many pickup points along the way. Visual COBOL offers a diverse choice of route as you travel a changing IT landscape, building on past success to create future innovation. And IBM mainframe users aren't left behind. The Micro Focus Enterprise Suite has Visual COBOL at its core, surrounded by a mainframe subsystem, ready to modernize CICS, IMS, and PL1 systems. So, what are you waiting for? The flexibility of Visual COBOL makes tackling legacy skills challenges simpler. The proven reliability to build a future IT architecture and the innovation to run your business and transform IT delivery.